listener name, get ready, because today we're taking a deep dive into some serious life advice from the book of Proverbs.
Oh boy, life advice, huh? Should I be taking notes?
You got it. And specifically, we're tackling this idea of guarding your heart. Lots of you sent in sources about this one, so it's clearly a topic that resonates.
It's a classic for a reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I got to admit, when I hear guarding your heart, I picture like knights in shining armor, not my usual Tuesday, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it sounds a little dramatic at first, like something straight out of Shakespeare.
Right. But I have a feeling there's a lot more to it than just, dodging heartbreak.
Oh, for sure. What's fascinating is that even though it sounds like something from a medieval romance, the idea of the heart as this inner core, this essential part of who we are, that's something that still totally resonates, even thousands of years after those proverbs were written.
So we're not just talking about, protecting our feelings here.
Not just feelings, no. It's bigger than that. Back then, they saw the heart as the seat of, well, everything.
Everything. Like what?
Your intellect, your willpower, your ability to make decisions, your moral compass, all of that came from the heart. It was like the command center for your entire being.
Wow, the command center. So way more intense than just, where you feel emotions.
Way more. And one of your sources, Proverbs 4.23, it says it perfectly. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
Okay, so we're not just trying to avoid a few tears here. We're talking about recognizing that what's going on in our heart, that's the source code for our actions.
Exactly. If our heart is the wellspring and our thoughts, our words, our actions, if those are all like the streams that flow from it, well, we want to make sure that wellspring is as clean and pure as possible. Because if the source is messed up, everything downstream is going to be messed up too.
Okay, yeah, that's a powerful image. I'm getting thirsty just thinking about it.
Right?
So if we're talking about guarding our hearts, it's not just about, avoiding bad stuff, is it? It's got to be more nuanced than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the sources you sent in mentioned something super interesting. It talked about purity of heart. It's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, purity can be a loaded word, for sure. So how do they understand it?
Well, it's about being super intentional, super careful about what we allow into our hearts and minds. Because we know those things. They don't just stay locked up inside. They have a way of working themselves out, expressing themselves through what we do and say.
So it's kind of like what you feed your mind is what your heart ends up wearing, right?
Love that. It's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out, but for our inner world, right? And the Proverbs you sent in, they get pretty real about what happens when we don't guard our hearts. Bitterness, for example, it can totally poison our relationships.
Yeah, bitterness is a tough one to shake.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then there's pride, which can blind us to our own faults, make it almost impossible to learn and grow.
Ugh, yeah. Pride can be such a sneaky one, Ken.
Right.
You don't even realize it's got a hold of you until it's too late.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's jealousy. It just eats away at our contentment, makes it impossible to celebrate the good things in our lives and in the lives of others.
Ugh, yeah, those are definitely not the ingredients for a happy life. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, honestly. But, okay, so we know what not to do, but how do we actually, do this whole guarding your heart thing? I mean, it's easy to say just choose truth or cultivate love, but how do we make that happen, especially in the world we live in today?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the good news is Proverbs doesn't just leave us hanging with these lofty ideals. It actually offers some pretty practical guidance.
Okay, good, because I need actionable steps, people.
You got it. And one of the most important pieces of advice is to be super aware of what we're letting influence our hearts, both from the outside world and from within.
Okay, so it's not just about, wearing noise-canceling headphones 24/7.
Not exactly. Although, hey, if it works. But seriously, it's about recognizing that we have a choice in what we allow to take root in our minds.
So it's like weeding a garden, but for our thoughts.
Exactly. We got to pull out those negative thought patterns, those limiting beliefs, and make space for something healthier to grow.
Okay, I can dig it. But how do we actually do that?
Well, your source has highlighted 2 practices that can be super helpful, and they're surprisingly connected to the challenges of our modern world.
Oh, do tell.
So one of the things they emphasize is the importance of being careful about the company we keep.
Okay, so choosing your friends wisely.
Yes. But it's even bigger than that. Think about it. In our world today, we're constantly bombarded with information, opinions, and influences from all directions, right?
Oh, tell me about it. It's like my phone's on a mission to give me a panic attack sometimes.
Right. It's like they knew about social media overload way back then. And it's not just the news or social media either. It's the books we read, the movies we watch, the music we listen to. All of it shapes our thoughts and emotions, whether we realize it or not.
Okay. That's a lot of influence to sift through. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack sometimes.
Exactly. And that's why being selective, being intentional about what we allow into our minds is so crucial.
So it's not about like unplugging completely and living off the grid.
No, it's not about disconnecting from the world. It's about recognizing that we have a limited amount of mental and emotional energy, and we need to protect that energy. We got to be wise about where we're investing it.
It's like choose your influences as carefully as you choose your friends.
Exactly. Surround yourself with people and content that uplift you, that inspire you, that challenge you in a good way, because all of those things, they make a difference. They really do shape who we're becoming.
So it's not just about what we're not letting in. It's about what we're intentionally choosing to focus on, right?
100%.
So it's like we're building our own personal library of influence, surrounding ourselves with the stuff that we want to, like, seep into our hearts and minds.
That's a great way to put it. And here's the thing, all this talk about guarding our hearts, it's not just about like damage control,
Right.
protecting ourselves from negativity and all that. There's a really beautiful upside too.
Like what?
Well, one of the quotes you sent in that really got me thinking, it was from Matthew 5:8. It says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God."
Whoa. Okay, that's a powerful statement. Makes you think about the stakes, doesn't it? But how does that connect to, like, the day-to-day work of, choosing our friends carefully and being mindful of what we're watching and listening to?
That's where it gets really interesting, right? Because it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's about making space for something more. When we're intentional about what we let into our hearts, when we're actively cultivating love, wisdom, truth, it's like we're creating this fertile ground for something really beautiful to grow.
So it's less about feeling good and more about, like, becoming good.
Exactly. And that inner transformation, that growth, it naturally spills over into everything else. Our actions, our relationships, how we show up in the world, all of it.
So it's not just about self-protection then. It's about cultivating a richer inner life that then kind of radiates outward.
Precisely. It's recognizing that the state of our hearts, it matters. And not just for us. It impacts everyone around us too.
Wow. Okay. So much to unpack there. Listener name. Out of everything we talked about today, what's really sticking with you? What feels most relevant to your life? Keep those questions simmering. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about taking small steps day by day to cultivate a healthy heart. Until next time, happy diving.